Hey there, welcome to the channel guys, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the movies that I watched in theaters in February of 2026. I started off the month by watching Mayasabha, The Hall of Illusion. This is one of the most deranged and weirdly unhinged movies that I have seen in a while. It's deeply strange and confusing and ambitious at the same time. I wouldn't say that I loved it, but I certainly don't regret watching this experiment in theaters. Though it is far from perfect, I am very glad that Rahi finally got to make his second feature despite all the hurdles he faced, and I'm very curious to see what he does next. Oh Romeo. It's heartbreaking that I did not like this movie. I really wanted to love it, given that it's another Vishal Bhardwaj and Shahid Kapoor collaboration, but man, was this honestly tough to sit through. There are things about it that I like, sure. The production design, cinematography, and lighting are genuinely stellar. For the most part, it's a well made movie with decently solid direction at the helm with its slick action sequences. But what on God's green earth was that screenplay? It has some interesting ideas, but it's all completely wasted by an unnecessarily long, confusing, and excruciatingly nonsensical story that I could not take seriously after a point. The film became more and more ridiculous as it went along, and I stopped caring soon after. This movie had so much potential being a crime thriller set in 90s Bombay. That is actually a more interesting story than whatever I ended up seeing on screen. Instead, the film went much larger in scope and scale, sacrificing any semblance of logic or emotion it had going for it. What could have been a fun and entertaining masala epic turned into a painfully exhausting film that simply became messier and more aimless than it already was. This is sadly one of the year's most tragic disappointments. Wuthering Heights. This doesn't come across as a surprise, but I did not like this movie. And it's a shame because it looks breathtakingly beautiful. Linus Sandgren proves yet again why he is one of the best cinematographers working today. This film is added to the new lineup of films using the VistaVision format, and it's absolutely gorgeous to look at. Can't say the same about the writing though, because no matter how beautifully it's shot, it can't conceal the fact that this is a vapid and insipid movie with no real substance in its hollow core, which is why the colorful imagery can keep me interested only for so long, because after a point, I was bored out of my mind watching this. The film is mostly a slog to sit through, with no real passion, creativity, or nuance stemming from it. I felt pretty much nothing while watching this, and it's sad to see such great actors wasted like this. They look amazing on screen, sure, but the film failed to elicit any emotional reaction from me. I can't even imagine how much the fans of the original book must be disappointed, given that I have not read the book, but I know what all they have changed to an extent. That breaches problematic territory. The film tries so hard to be evocative, but all of it is just empty provocation. I still don't know why I watched this, to be honest. From everyone's reactions, I knew that I most likely wouldn't have liked this anyway. I suppose I was maybe hoping to at least have a decent time at the movies. Sadly, I didn't even have that. Tu Yaa Main. I'm gonna be honest, this is genuinely one of the best theatrical experiences that I've had in the new year so far. I absolutely adore this movie. It's incredibly well made with solid filmmaking and vibrantly stylized use of lighting. It's partly edited like an Instagram reel, but within the film's specific context, it actually works. The background score, songs, and needle drops are all bangers, and even its mostly good CGI blends in perfectly well with the carefully calibrated direction, rarely taking me out of the experience. It works as a tender yet modern love story that lightly addresses class divide while seamlessly switching genres into an intensely gripping survival thriller. The shift in filmmaking language alongside the shift in genre is also commendable. The two leads do a great job at making me care and root for their characters while also having really good chemistry that made me believe in their relationship. But man, was that second half really something. I was utterly terrified, audibly reacting to the film by aggressively moving around in sheer panic at my seat at what I was watching. My friends and I were having a physically visceral experience by just how thrilling and nail biting the film was. It's nuts that I loved this movie so much. I was skeptical but curious when I first saw the trailer, but I am so glad that this turned out to be such a banger. It's not often that we get good or even great Hindi movies nowadays. So let's savor and celebrate one while it's still in theaters, because currently it's flopping and it honestly breaks my heart. Crime 101. The trailers really did this a disservice because this was far from the mediocre film that I was expecting it to be. It's a sleek and stylish crime drama with solid performances and genuinely great filmmaking. With its inventive use of reflections, rack focuses, match cuts, and controlled shot choices, this film elevates its script with fantastic direction. My ultimate gripe would probably be that this film feels shockingly chill for a thriller. I wish we spent more time with the characters, and I hoped that I would resonate with the film on a more deeper level, but despite that, I had a damn good time. Sinners. Yup, that still is the best movie of 2025. I am so glad that I got to see this in IMAX once again. After a hectic week of unimaginable stress and anxiety, I really needed to go to the cinemas again, and this was the perfect movie to watch in theaters. Plus, this is my first IMAX experience of the new year, so that's that. It's crazy how well I know this movie. I am super familiar with every cut, dialogue, shot, and musical moment to the T. It felt like I was inside the theater for just 30 minutes or so because the film was an absolute breeze to sit. And I know that this movie will win many Oscars, and I know that this will mainly be in tough competition with one battle after another. But I really hope I either see Coogler win Best Director or the film win Best Picture. Only time will tell. GOAT. Honestly, I'm kind of disappointed by this movie. It's got some solid animation and character designs, but man, does this film need to chill the fuck out? The story is generic and does nothing new or interesting with the classic underdog story. It's filled with tired and overused cliches, along with incredibly fast and rapid pacing where there was absolutely no time for me to feel anything. It needed tons of breathing room, and instead, every story beat, conflict, or emotional arc was resolved in a matter of minutes, and that's easily my biggest problem with this subpar film. The basketball sequences are genuinely spectacular though. The conceptualization and animation in those parts honestly blew me away. But that's about it. Apart from that, this film sadly has nothing much else going for it. Assi. Given the urgency and relevance of the subject matter, I really wish this film was better. It's not a bad film by any means, but as the movie progresses, it becomes thematically and narratively messier, making the effective first half to be the best part of the film. The filmmaking is honestly really good for the most part. The way the camera moves in certain sequences, playing with blocking and focus shifts, is honestly really commendable. It's even got some well-staged Spielbergian one-ers that don't call attention to themselves. The color grade looks like an odd LUT, but works in dousing the film with this muted and colorless palette that matches the harshness and bleak nature of this story. And the film's frequent use of a red screen every 20 minutes was a unique creative choice that I found to be quite impactful. But the film loses steam after its first half by focusing on other random subplots. Not that those subplots do not have potential, it's just that they end up detracting from the main storyline without adding anything substantial to the overall themes of the movie. And worse, it diminishes the impact of the victim story, who I wish was treated a little more like a character than just a victim. The film has progressive politics backing it, and it wants to tackle many ideas such as India's rape problem, not hiding the ugliness of the world from children, hit and runs from drunk drivers, the failings of the Indian judiciary, depiction of rape in mainstream cinema, vigilante justice, and the ethics of revenge as an excuse to justify murder. And while I love that a film aims to explore all these themes, not only does it make the film overly stuffed, this film has a very on-the-nose approach to tackling these ideas. It is an incredibly angry film, and justifiably so. Sometimes its direct and straightforward approach can work, but here, for the most part, it's actually detrimental to the story. But either way, I'm really glad this film got made. In a country where rape is normalized and desensitized, where rapists aren't punished but instead go on to become lawmakers, it's great to see a film that openly talks about just how angry we all should be about it. In a country where rape is seen as taboo, where the victims are often blamed instead of the perpetrators, it's great to see a film that calls society out on its biases and criticizes it with fueling rage. It's unfortunately not a great film, but it's still a necessary one. I sat in that cinema hall with just two others, while it should have been a full house. Good luck, have fun, don't die. I'm so glad that my most anticipated film of this month did not disappoint. This was just as fun and as bonkers as I expected. It's got some really electric filmmaking, and hilariously sharp social commentary about today's digital age and our endless consumption of content on the internet, how corporations profit off of people's grief, and how the concerningly unregulated growth of AI is rotting our brains. The film is, for the lack of a better term, a lot. And somehow, that is the best part of the film as well as its flaw. I fucking adore how nuts it is. It unapologetically executes some wacky and colorful ideas with utmost conviction. And it's also got some genuinely batshit insane imagery that I honestly have never seen in a movie before. But also, the sheer lunacy of the film tends to sometimes get in the way of me connecting with the characters. After having sat with the film, it didn't leave me with much emotional resonance. But despite that, I had an absolute ball in the cinema hall. Thankfully, the theater I watched it in had a really good sound system, so the film sounded terrific. The movie perfectly captures the anxieties and nightmares of contemporary times. If you're someone like me who constantly worries about the state of the world and wonders if everything is going to shit, then this movie might be for you, as it acknowledges these thoughts and feelings and channelizes it in a fun, entertaining film. The jokes are all really funny, yet also timely. Gore Verbinski has a lot of understandable hatred towards the rapidly increasing usage and overdependence on technology, and the film examines this with the subtlety of a sledgehammer, which completely works in this film's favor, for it establishes its stylized and exaggerated tone very early on. This is one of the most original and entertaining theatrical experiences that I've honestly had in a while. It's nice to see Gore back to making films after a decade-long hiatus, and any film whose enemy is AI is my friend. The Secret Agent. This is one of those films that leaves a good taste in your mouth long after you walked out of the theater. I knew that I was going to love this film, given how much love and acclaim it has deservedly gotten since its Cannes premiere back in May of 2025, but it is also one of the more interesting theatrical experiences that I've had recently. The filmmaking is genuinely fun and stylish, with multiple split shots, wipe transitions, and split diopter shots that imbibe the film with a sense of retro energy and vintage nostalgia, while also paying homage to classic 70s thrillers that it's so evidently inspired by and borrowing from. Plus, the film is shot beautifully. It utilizes the widescreen aspect ratio to its fullest potential, and the wonderful production and costume design go hand in hand with the cinematography to completely immerse me in the setting of 1970s Brazil. I am not kidding when I say that I was utterly transported for those 2.5 hours. But the almost classical filmmaking approach is in service of a thrilling yet moving narrative about oppression and the difficulties of living under a tyrannical regime, about the struggles of having to live two different lives when under threat from your own country. These themes aren't just effectively explored, they're more relevant than ever. It's also about understanding memory through ancestry. This incredibly personal angle gives the film a whole new layer with which we can experience the movie in a uniquely different lens. Also, Wagner Moura is fantastic in the role. He exudes quiet charisma like few others. But the way this film uses its main framing device was honestly a stroke of genius, because the unexpected yet perfect ending recontextualizes the entire story in a quietly tragic way, where it does not rely on selling us the emotions, instead letting us feel it on our own. And I did not expect the film to end the way it did, but come to think of it, it's not just an interesting way to conclude this story, it is also the best way that they could have done it. It's poignant in a way that doesn't try too hard to make us feel the needed emotions, it reeks of mature filmmaking. I also adore how slow the movie is. It's not at all afraid to take its time setting up the world and characters, and this pace does not ever take away from the intensity of the espionage and paranoia parts of the film. Its meditative approach to storytelling goes perfectly well with the scenes of secret identities and shootouts. And if I'm being completely honest, I did not understand the film entirely. Surely it's the lack of cultural understanding from my side, plus it was a little difficult for me to keep track of the multiple characters, timelines and storylines. The fact that it was in a language that I did not know made it just a little tougher for me to keep up. But overall, I am very grateful to have gotten to watch this in theaters. I have been waiting to see this film since May of last year, and I'm honestly really glad that it lived up to the hype that I've been hearing about for the last 8 months or so. It's the kind of movie that I found myself fondly looking back on after I walked out of the cinema hall, where instead of the flaws starting to show themselves later on, many memorable scenes and moments began to ingrain themselves into my brain. It felt like an enriching experience where I got the sense that my 3 hours was well utilized. And I ended the month with Arco. Turns out that I, unsurprisingly, loved this lovely and charming little film. It boasts of some solid 2D animation alongside a genuinely heartwarming story about friendship, environmental destruction, over-reliance on excess technology, and human connection through the lens of a colorful time travel narrative. I especially adored the soft world building that focuses more on the mood and atmosphere instead of explaining the mechanics of its universe. I think that is why many are calling this a Ghibli type film. But I'm really glad I saw this film in cinemas. The breathtakingly beautiful animation aided by a moving orchestral score and splendidly textured sound design really made this a memorable theatrical experience. This is the film I'm rooting for to win at the Oscars. So yeah, these are the films I watched in theaters this month. If I were to count the 2025 releases, then this is what the ranking would look like from my favorite to least favorite. And if I were to count only the new 2026 releases, then this is what the ranking would look like. And now for the segment that I've started towards the end of these videos where I talk about 4 categories, except I added a new category number 5 here, that being the films I plan to see next month. For category number 1, I missed out on stuff like What the 2, which I heard was not that bad, though Deewane Sheher Mein, which had me curious from the 2 romantic leads as well as the trailer, but I swear I could not find a single review from critics or YouTubers I follow, so I honestly don't know whether to watch this or not. I am not at all interested in watching Scream 7, Shatak or Kerala Story 2, but I sadly did miss out on films that I was really looking forward to watch during this last weekend of February, such as Hamnet, Nukkad Natak and An Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind re-release. Because of my travel plans as well as these films being inaccessible with few shows due to state-sponsored propaganda taking up screens, I could not catch them this month, but I will try my best to see them in March. So yeah, these are some of the films that I missed out on. For category number 2, expected hits, the films in this category are Good Luck Have Fun Don't Die, Arco and The Secret Agent. Sadly, there weren't that many films this month that turned out to be as good or great as I expected. Sinners is not here because I've already seen that movie multiple times. For category number 3, pleasant surprises, the films in this category are Tu Yaa Main and Crime 101. For category number 4, the films that disappointed me were Mayasabha, O Romeo, Wuthering Heights, Goat and Assi. And for the new category number 5, the films I'm looking forward to watch next month. So obviously there are a few February releases that I'm going to have to catch up to, such as the re-release of Eternal Sunshine, Hamnet and Nukkad Natak. But the March releases that I plan to see are The Bride, Hoppers, Boong, Project Hail Mary, Iron Lung, They Will Kill You and maybe Toxic and Dhurandhar 2. So yeah, here is the overall list, and here is the list ranked in order of excitement. Sadly though, I have just returned from a trip and unfortunately ended up missing the Eternal Sunshine re-release as well as a showing of Nukkad Natak. And though I have already seen Eternal Sunshine multiple times, it would have been lovely to have seen it in theaters. But what surprises me is how Nukkad Natak ran for just 1 week in cinemas. I had really been looking forward to seeing that film, especially because of their excellent marketing run over these past few months, and apart from the good reviews, I just wanted to support independent cinema that made it on their own. But sadly, I was out for the 1 week it played in theaters, and I really regret not being able to see it. And I would love for the film to get a few more showings, just as Sabar Bonda did last year. And as of time of recording this video, I just learned that my most anticipated film of March and one of my most anticipated films of the whole year, Project Hail Mary, is probably going to be postponed from March 20th to April 3rd as shown in the PVR website. My guess is because 2 huge Indian blockbusters, Toxic and Dhurandhar, are releasing that very weekend and are very likely to take over many other film formats such as IMAX, Dolby, 4DX and ScreenX, which is probably why Hail Mary is getting pushed. And though I am sad that I will not get to see the movie next month, I am glad that its postponement means that it can release in all those multiple formats. And with this new piece of information, here is my updated list of March releases that I plan to see, ranked in order of excitement. And as it turns out, even Toxic has now been postponed to June 4th, leaving Dhurandhar to rule the rest of March and the future months. The clash between both films is no more. Which is why I don't know anymore whether Project Hail Mary will even release in March or not, because after Toxic shifted, Hail Mary is supposedly going to play on the 20th again, according to the PVR website, but there hasn't been any official statement of its release date, so I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see. Plus, I've also heard that a restored 4K version of the film in which Annie gives it those ones will also briefly be re-releasing for just 3 days, so I'm definitely gonna try my best to catch that one as well, as I had coincidentally been meaning to see that film anyway. So yeah, overall I would say that this was a good month at the movies for me. Though I loved only a few films from the 11 that I watched, I still consider this a decently good month. I am really excited to see what's in store for March. There are some releases there that I'm really excited about. See you guys in a month. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.